Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Episode 5.
Episode 5. We keep getting messages from people.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they want to know more about our relationship. Seriously. And I don't think we mentioned it on the last podcast, but there was a London Business School case study that was done about our company, and it mostly focused on our marriage. It was interesting, but we promise that we'll get to it.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it at some point again about the challenges, according to Cristina, to working not with a spouse, working with me.
For 20 years. Well, no. Married for 20 years, working together for 13? 13.
Yeah, 13. Well, as a
12?
United company, but we started in 2006, really. So, okay. But one of the things that people asked is actually one of our good friends who wrote this through LinkedIn. She said, how do we get clients, basically? And it's I know it sounds like a simple question, but the truth is that many times professionals in our field, architects, interior designers, they showcase their work, but no one really explains how they got that job. How were they able to reel in a client? And once you have the client, how do you develop that relationship, and how do you keep them if you choose to? So I think that's very interesting.
Agreed. Yeah.
I know that's the kind of stuff people don't talk about. We don't mind. We basically pay for clients to come. No, I'm kidding. But anyway.
Don't we talk about? I mean, I can tell them about one of my first clients, or my first client, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
Interesting.
As you know, I normally bring lists because I'm always overly prepared, and I wanna get to some of the things that I think that we've learned throughout the years. But shoot.
So in my case, and I'll talk about first of all when I was on my own.
And this is back in 2005.
2005.
So people could calculate more or less your age.
The first client that I got was actually a referral.
Yeah.
And it was a friend of yours who referred this client to me.
Yes.
And it was an interior design. It was really a decorating project. I was so excited, just to be.
Was it commercial or was it residential?
No, it was residential. And I went all in. But when the client was satisfied with the work I did for him, and then he hired me for a commercial project,
right?
Because he was the owner of these gyms, and so he hired me for a commercial project. So after that, I remember I think the third or fourth client I got was also a referral, and it was a good friend of mine from high school, who his father needed an interior designer, and he connected me with his father, and
right.
and his father, to this day, probably my favorite client ever. I
don't have favorite clients. I'm not like Cristina.
He gave me a chance.
I don't have a favorite child.
Well, I'll explain. He gave me a chance. He didn't know my work at all. He just knew.
He didn't have any portfolio.
Right. He knew me as a high schooler, as a friend of his son, and he, with all the confidence in the world, said, "Do it. Do this as if. Do you want the project? It's yours." And he said, "Do it as if you were doing it for yourself." Right. And that was amazing. So who was your first client?
My first client, on my own, was my godfather.
Okay.
He wanted to remodel his house, and he came to me. And then, because I did that, he's a lawyer, and he worked at a law firm. And I think some of his partners saw the house, and they're like, "Who's the architect?" Is my godson. And he started referring me to every one of his partners. So for a while, I felt like I was only working for lawyers. But yeah, so the bottom line is that you and I really started because of word of mouth. Referrals.
And people.
And networking.
Yeah,
and family, friends, really. Think about it.
Honestly, family, friends, and being I guess just nice, just being nice.
Well, that's added, but you know,
No, but my point is, clients want to work with people they like and people they trust.
right.
In the
And
beginning, they can't possibly trust you because they don't know you.
correct.
But so what's left? Whether they like you.
Yeah.
So
I
so
agree. And
just
again, I'm going to say something that hopefully no one gets insulted, but I don't know if clients really know the difference between great design and bad design. But they
it's
do.
very subjective
It,
too.
yeah, not for me, but
Well, yeah, but
for them.
in general, for
But
people,
they
it's
do know.
subjective.
But clients might not know the difference between good and great design, but they do know the difference between good and bad service. So
Absolutely.
what I would tell anyone who's starting in the industry is saying, "Hey, be humble, be nice, be accessible,
Responsible
be responsible,
and responsive.
and responsive." Correct. I
Well,
remember
what was it that they told you?
my father.
Your father said if you answer the phone every time, you're 50% ahead of the game.
Yes, that's what he used to say. And the reason he said it is because of responsiveness. And at the end of the day, I'm not so sure I think people will value responsiveness, responsibility, ease of doing business way before the actual product. Now, obviously, if you have a product that's not great, you might get that first client and you might not get a referral.
Right.
But you will get the first client. And I always say it, if you go to a restaurant and the food is amazing, but they treat you like crap, you don't want to go back. Why would you go back to get mistreated, overpay for something that it's, you forget the quality of the food. You only remember the emotional side of things, which is the connection with the people that served you, the ease of doing business, how they made you feel, the emotional connection, basically. That's what it is. So
because we make decisions emotionally and then we justify them rationally.
right. So correct. So if you so the question that was brought up through social media was, how do you get clients? Well, at first we got them through referrals, through friends of friends. But when I said that you had to be, available and humble, it's because sometimes in our industry you're taught to feel that you have the answers, and you do not have the answers. What you have is curiosity, and if you're curious to try to find the answer together with and for someone else, you're going to be successful. So that's what normally happens early on. So you get your client through referrals, you get your client through the way you treat them, and it's not only through design. And I can tell you guys, even the most successful or quote unquote well-known professionals in our industry, even if their work is amazing, if they're impossible to work with, they're going to struggle financially. They might not struggle from a perception standpoint in which, like, oh, they're in every cover of a magazine, they're really famous, they're really well known, but they will struggle financially because they will not get referred, and chances are that they won't get the repeat client.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. So, I mean, what we're saying basically is that it's all about relationships.
It is all about relationships. So, according to my little list, number 3 is network and relationships.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that word networking gets thrown out a lot.
What do you think it means?
Well, I think it means, kind of go out and mingle and whatnot. But I prefer to think of networking as just being intentional about creating relationships.
I agree.
And so whatever it is you're doing. So for example, in my case, I go to trade shows. When I go to trade shows, I try to spend time with the different suppliers at the different tables, or the different suppliers that I meet for different brands and whatnot. Right. But I try to actually connect with them on a human level. So yes, I'm interested in the product, obviously, but if I can connect to the person behind the product, like preferably the owner who has a stake in and really believes in that product, or like a great rep or a great, person to work with.
Or you're talking about partnerships.
Well,
which is a little different.
Yeah, but my point is I'm focusing on building those relationships. And oftentimes, I think clients come from the most unexpected places.
Right.
You don't know who's going to give you a referral, but it's about how do you make people feel? You make them feel like they matter to you. So you just pay attention. You just genuinely try to connect with them. And I think that being intentional about making those connections is what will ultimately, at some point, you don't know when, it might come back around to a referral or a connection to someone else who might refer you.
But I'll add to what you're saying, because I think this is something I learned from you, is that when you're too intentional about networking and creating relationships and partnerships, sometimes you could come off as
in Spanish you say buscón.
Right. Well, okay. That was sure that you come off as disingenuous. That's what I was going to say, because it seems that too obvious that you're there and you're being nice only for the purpose of getting a job. And the truth is that
bájale dos, como diría.
Right. So, what happens is that if you're yourself, if you're genuine, authentic, and you allow yourself to create relationships, even if they're business relationships, you might not get a job from them, but they will refer you. And they'll say something positive about you and say, hey, working with that person was great, and XYZ. So I think that partnering is part is part of a network and building relationships. I would say in our experience, as you grow and get more and more successful, I would say that if you're intentional about something, be intentional about the associations and groups you want to become part of. Yes. So if you have a strong set of values that align with the ULI, it's the Urban Land Institute, will become an active member, become active in the different in the many different activities that they have, and then you'll be able to identify with the other people there because you have shared values.
Agree, 100%.
If you're an architect, I'll say this, and I know and I understand that I'm a fellow of the AIA and I am a member of the American Institute of Architects, but if you only have one chance to become a member of one association, become a member of an association where your clients are, not where your colleagues are. So if you have a chance to become part of a developers group, become part of that instead of the American Institute of Architects. Why? And I know I'm going to get some hate mail here, because you want to develop relationships with people that maybe share your values, but at the same time could potentially be your clients. If you spend every single minute of your time on an organization, that basically is colleagues and not potential clients, what happens is that you'll develop a lot of relationships with your potential competition. And as a matter of rationale, you should do a lot of research and find out what groups you want to be part of. And if you only have a chance to be part of one, make sure it's a group that you could actually expand your horizons to the potential clientele instead of only to your competition.
Well, I mean, this podcast is about getting clients.
Right.
So I think that advice applies for getting clients. I mean, I think it's still good to belong to like the AIA or
Oh, absolutely. It's just how active do you want to become?
Yeah, the Interior Design Association or whatnot. But if what you're looking for is to find clients, like, if you're going fishing, go where the fish are.
Correct. That's exactly correct. So if you join, I would say that for network and building relationships, you need to join organizations and associations. Just be mindful of what type of organization you want to become part of. Don't complain later that all your clients don't share your values if you choose an organization that not necessarily shares
your values.
I remember a couple years ago, but I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, as you remember, I used to write, and we used to write a lot in the local newspaper about architecture and interior design. Mm-hmm. And the editor always wanted us to talk about pools and terraces because that's what was attractive for the readers. The problem was that we were not doing that many pools and we were not doing that many terraces. So we would get calls all the time. Hey, can you design my terrace? Can you design my expansion to my house? Can you design a pool for my house? And I was like, oh, I don't get the calls that I want. And it's just stupid. I mean, because obviously the calls that we were used to get were the calls from the articles that were being published. So if you want to be,
we weren't being intentional.
if you want to be
kind of
intentional about who you are or who you want to become, you can't be everything to everyone.
Agree.
So be focused, be surgical, and that way you'll be a lot more efficient in trying to get the potential clients you want to get.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, what do you want to be best at? Where can you add the most value? Define what that is. Try and find someone who believes in you so you can prove your case.
Right.
And then hopefully you'll be referred. But yeah, I think you brought up a very interesting topic, which is at that time, it's kind of a tangent, but at that time we were just kind of
being everything to everyone.
Yeah, we weren't being intentional, and we were just like, any publicity is good publicity, right? Like, let's see, whatever we attract, kind of like that magnet mentality. So if the newspaper asked us to write about a pool, we had done pools, so we were experts in pools, but we didn't want to attract more pool clients. So
by the way, not that there's anything problematic by doing that. It's just the type of firm we had aspirations to become.
Yeah,
we're more focused on what we are now.
Right.
And once you are very clear on what you are and what you want to become, now you'll be able to actually also be clear on what kind of clients do you want. Instead of actually just saying yes out of fear.
To everything.
Which is what happens often. You say yes because, if I say no to this client, I don't know if I'm going to get another project. The problem is that now you're spending energy with a client you don't want, and you might miss on the opportunity of working with people you want to work with, because when they show up, now you're too busy.
Yeah. And you can't be as responsible or as responsive with them.
Right.
You know, and plus the wrong clients, they take a lot of energy.
They do. The same thing with friendships. The same thing with people. The wrong kind of people that are around you, they will, drain you. It's a toxicity. And again, you have to kind of, I think you said it best, you have to kind of focus very clearly in who you are, and then who you want to become. And after you have that clear, now you could be intentional.
Yeah.
So when you talk about how to get clients, going back to the topic, well, what I just said helps you build a very strong identity of who you are, and that adds to your brand identity. If you have a strong brand identity and it's clear to everyone that Cristina Villalón does hotels, they're going to call Cristina when they're going to build their hotel. If it's not clear, they'll call you for anything. And the energy it takes Cristina saying yes and no to all those people is energy that she should be spending on trying to either A, keep the clients that she has, or B, identify new clients. And then the second part of that is that if you never know who you are and you don't have a clear identity, what happens is that now you're going to start saying no to people. And they're going to be insulted. They're going to feel hurt. I call Cristina, I call Ricardo, they're always saying no. Why? Because you're attracting the wrong project or client, and then they'll tell other people, don't call them. Those people are difficult. They're always saying no. So, that's something, that's why it's so important to build a strong identity. And that requires time and energy. You have to spend energy
and introspection.
Identifying who you are and and ultimately who you want to become.
Yeah.
So
what do your notes say?
Well, I'm going to go to my notes, but the last time you were a little annoyed that I went back to my notes. So you have to build a strong brand identity. We talked about that.
So understand the kind of client you want to attract first and foremost.
Right. Once you do that, you can network intentionally and surgically.
Yes.
So you could build relationships.
So go where the fishes are.
Correct. And then by doing that, you join associations and things that we talked about. And you can partner with different professionals. Now, specialize and differentiate. Let's talk about that. Because once you know who you are or who you want to become, one of the things we both learned is that being everything makes you okay at everything. You have to be an expert in something.
Yeah. Or you have to be able to articulate what it is that you do differently.
Right.
Okay? So what makes you unique?
Mhm.
What makes you special? So in high school, you just want to fit in and blend in. But in your professional life, you want to stand out. And you want to stand out so that the people that value the
For the
way
right
you
reasons.
do things will find you. But the only way they'll be able to find you is if you are very explicit and
And
articulate it well. So if you're unclear, you're making it really hard for them to find you, you know? So then you're going to start attracting all kinds of different people, and then you have to sort through them and figure out who's right and who's not right. Whereas if you start with the basics, part one,
Mhm.
really defining and articulating that brand identity, it'll be a lot easier to attract the right kinds of clients, which is
Correct.
ultimately what you want.
And you said it. I mean, being able to differentiate yourself is, in my opinion, very important. Not because you want to be different for the sake of being different. It's just a matter of kind of showcasing who you truly are and what you really love to do.
I mean, no,
I want to give you an example. A couple years ago, a really really big A&E firm was hired to do a project, and the company hired them instead of us, because they were great at everything. A couple years down the road, they were let go, and they came back to us, and then we were hired, as you know. Why? And I asked them because I wanted to know, because sometimes you want to really know. You can't just assume because a client says, "Oh, I had to get rid of them because they were terrible." Maybe the client is terrible, so you want to find out.
Yeah.
And I asked them, and I said, "Hey, why didn't it work out?" And the answer was like, they weren't. They had a lot of knowledge in many things, but not in specifically what we needed. And it's okay to be able to be bespoke and just specialize in a couple things. If we quote Steve Jobs, first thing he did the second time around he came to Apple is just, we don't need 50,000 different products. We just need 2 or 3 that are amazing. And that's what you guys should focus in. I mean, not everyone's Gensler that could do a lot of things great. But most of the firms in the United States in architecture and interior design have less than 15 or 10 employees. So be the best in something, and then you'll make it easy for your clients to find you, and you're going to be able to provide the best service possible because you're really good at that. If a client comes in and says, "Hey, Cristina, can you do a hospital?" and you've never done it, guess what? You're learning with the client. The client's going to get frustrated because you don't seem to be knowledgeable enough, and you might, and the client might not fire you, like in the case that I said, but the client might finish the project with you, and that client will not hire you again. What we recommend is saying to the client, "Hey, because you already have maybe a network or a relationship, we're not architects for hospitals, but we can refer you to a firm that does that work." And guess what? You keep the relationship. They value the fact that you were able to say, "Hey, we care about our relationship. We think you're great, but we're not right for you for X, Y, and Z, but we'll actually refer you to the right firm for you." Other people are afraid of doing that because they think that if they refer, they'll lose the client. And I can tell you without a doubt, all those clients will come back because they'll trust your decision-making over the fact that you were a good or a bad designer. And at the end of the day, and I'm quoting Art Gensler, the best client is a repeat client.
Agreed. I think that what that does is build trust with the client, because it makes them feel like, okay, they're not just going to say yes to everything. They're looking out for my best interests. They have self-awareness to recognize that they're not maybe the best fit for this project, and they're referring someone else who might be better fit. So I think clients value that, they respect that. And I would say in a different scenario, in a case where maybe the client trusts you and wants you to do it, but you're not an expert, the other thing you could do is maybe partner with an expert.
Yes.
And bring in another
Great
firm that that is an expert in that typology, and say we can work together, and that way you can learn about that typology. Maybe it becomes another area of expertise for your firm.
And you are gonna be, and you're still the
but-
trusted partner with
Yes.
that client.
The client.
So I 100% agree with you. So when people ask us how do you get clients, I mean, I would say that relationships are very important. We talked about it. Having a very clear brand absolutely helps, because you're not gonna know everyone. But then there's other things anyone could do, and I wanna mention some of them. Become an expert in something, and I'm not talking about only design. If you design affordable housing like we do, not only design, become an expert, write about it. Put yourself in a position in which they can invite you to be a speaker.
Right.
So you could become a topic expert.
Subject matter.
Subject matter expert. And then
and
that gives you the I would say the public persona,
gravitas
too, or the
validation.
the validation that someone in that audience is saying, hey, I like what that guy presented. But it's not only about presenting your own architecture or your own interior design. Let's be clear about that. There's nothing worse than someone that only talks about themselves and their work. Okay? So what if you're an expert and you speak at a conference and you not only show your work, you show other people's work, you create a level of goodwill with even your potential colleagues, and you become an expert in the topic. So writing about it, giving speeches, putting yourself in a place in which people could actually learn from you, and also you learn from them. If you get invited to juries, go to juries. If you get invited to things that might put you in a place where you can become an expert, that also absolutely helps. So, and nowadays, social media is very important, because if 15 years ago, when you and I were, 20 years ago, when more than 20 years ago when I started, social media was not as big. So you had to write where? In the paper, in the magazines, and actually become a speaker. But now you don't need to be 100% published by Rizzoli or Architecture Digest or Architecture Record. You could actually self-publish through social media, do blogs, do a lot of blogs, and those blogs are going to be sent to a lot of people. And some of them are going to learn with you, and some are going to be like, whoa, this is very interesting. Maybe that kind of firm that already showed that they share my values might be the right firm for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, something that happens with our industry, our profession in general, is that it's timing, right? So you might have someone that's following you for years, reading your blogs and listening to you, and they love how you think, but they don't have the project yet.
Yeah.
But when the time comes, you want to stay top of mind. That's why what you just said, writing and getting out there is important, because when the time comes, you want to be the person that they think about for that project. And so a lot of these things have to do with timing, and it's not every day that people are have a hospitality project that they're undertaking.
And by the way, I'm being humble about it, because there's a chance that you might get a call from someone saying, hey, listen, I have an architect. They're already doing the work. I just want you to come in and give us a consulting work on identifying areas that we can basically do better. And based on the presentation or the blog that I read, I think that you and your team could give us some direction from a consulting standpoint. Be humble. Yeah. Don't say, no, that's beneath me. I should be the architect. I am the greatest designer in the world. No, because you're not the greatest designer in the world. I've never met someone that's amazing, but I met people who are basically not humble. And if you put yourself in a place in which you could be of help instead of actually be a burden, that definitely helps in A, identifying a new client, and B, keeping that client.
Yeah. People will work with people they like and people they trust.
I agree with that. Well, our time is up for today.
Nothing else in your notes that you
Oh,
want to
I have a
repeat?
lot of things in my notes, but I am afraid of you. I don't want to read it out loud anymore. And again, we have a lot of topics. So these are things that we have to, circle back and come back. And if you can continue to write your comments and write topics that you want us to discuss, we'll absolutely do it. And I promise you, I'll bring my little list, and I will annoy my wife a lot. So let's send a lot of that so we can all annoy her. So thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. And thank you guys for listening. And remember, transformation begins from the inside out.
Thank you.